let's get into the giant mailbag.
What crazy thing did Citi do this week?
It's time for Mattress running the numbers. Ready for the main event?
The main event.
Frequent Miler on the air starts now. Today's main event, our all-time favorite awards. We've booked a lot of awards in our time, and we're going to narrow it down to just our very, very favorites and discuss the stories behind those awards.
It'd be interesting to see what your favorites are. Because, I mean, we each wrote a post about this, but I mean, I guess you numbered yours. I didn't really number mine.
No, you didn't.
So...
And I'm not going to go totally within those numbers, and I'll explain why when we get to it.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad we each have a little something different to throw in there. Yeah. I'll give you the sneak preview. If you read the posts already, I'm not using all redemptions that were in the post. Boom. There you go. You'll find out more.
Well, and I'm not either. And because we talked about having flight awards for this show. We're going to do flight awards. We're going to do lodging awards, but we're also going to do other.
We'll see what that means.
At least I have another ready. I don't know if you do.
I know. I do. I do have another.
Right,
I'm
good.
just curious if my other is similar. It's not similar to your other. I know that, but I'm curious now what your other is. But we'll find out. If you're curious too.
I'm curious.
Stay tuned.
I know. I actually know what it is though. Anyway, I don't know what yours is. So let's get into the giant mailbag. Today's giant mail comes from Captain Greg. He's made an appearance here several times before.
Aye.
Captain Greg, along with several other readers who've reached out either publicly or privately, we're not thrilled with the way we handled the big Simply Miles deal from a week or two ago. And so what happened was we had made a choice about how to publish the original post about it and not kind of headline the big opportunity to get 240 points per dollar. And last week's show, we kind of questioned whether that was the right choice or not. And we debated whether it was or not. And Captain Greg weighed in with a very long comment. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's part of it. While I understand your reasons for not promoting the 240X headline, this does feel like the first time that FM has held back info from its readers. There have been plenty of other too good to be true deals that you've immediately reported in the past. And while you occasionally get criticisms from curmudgeons about killing the golden goose, I'd say the vast majority of your readers jump to defend those decisions. So to me, the way you reported this news seems like a break from the norm you've set and goes against part of what has created a very loyal base.
It's a really interesting piece of feedback. I read it and I wrote a response and then I didn't finish it. And I went back and I still didn't finish it because I totally get that piece of feedback. I mean, that makes some sense there. I have a lot of different thoughts about it. But one of the things that came to mind when he said that was, I want to be careful about how I say this. It's not the first time we've chosen not to write about something that we thought would die. So I feel like his word choice of feels like the first time you've held back. If I say, no, we've held things back before, it sounds like we're hiding things. And that's not at all what I mean. But what I mean is sometimes there are things people share in confidence, or there are things that we know that are fragile that we don't write about because we know that it will kill them. So that's not an unprecedented thing. And that's not just us. You'll find that, across the blogosphere, there's some things that just don't get talked about. Right. But in this case, it's interesting because the information was public. It was advertised. And we've talked about that before, that when there's something that's advertised, we should write about it. And so from that perspective, I think he's right. But then I sat there thinking through it and I was like, let's imagine just for a moment an alternate universe where we headlined the 240, and we don't know what would have happened. Obviously, it's all speculation. But let's imagine that alternate universe where we write about the 240X on Saturday, View from the Wing does, 1 Mile at a Time does. So everybody starts getting in on it 24 hours early. Does it seem conceivable to you that the deal could have gotten pulled 24 hours earlier than it did if we had headlined that 24 hours than it had been? And I think that that's a conceivable outcome. And if that had happened, then that would have been pulled before American Airlines confirmed it to Gary at View from the Wing. And I really feel like Had it not been confirmed to Gary at View from the Wing, it would have been a lot easier to not honor that one and back out of it saying it was a mistake, it was a typo, it was a this, it was a that.
Right.
So I feel like it stayed alive that way, but did we have the ability to predict the future and know that? Of course not. And I have no idea in hindsight really whether that was true. So I get the frustration. I don't know. We're not going to get them all right. I'm still not sure whether it was right or wrong. I sleep okay with it. But.
Right. My kind of feeling about it is, and I think I sort of said this last week, but I'm going to be more clear about it, is that I don't think I would make this. I wouldn't make the same decision again. Like my gut when it first came up was just go ahead and publish it. And I think that was the right choice, even if the what happened ended up being better for more people. So Captain Greg and a few other people reached out to me were not people who it worked out better for various reasons. Right. And I get that, but our sort of guess here is that because of the way things worked out, it happened to be that it was better for more people the way it dribbled out. But, just going back, I think I would just say, you know what, it was a publicly advertised deal. The fact that we saw an angle on it that was really good is something that, our readers expect us to show them. So there you go.
There you go. All right. Okay. There you go, Captain Greg. All right. So then what crazy thing did Citi do this week?
Citi.
You're back.
Citi, the original crazy thing doer. This segment used to be permanently called What Crazy Thing Did Citi Do This Week?
Good.
And then they stopped doing crazy things every week. And so that kind of forced us to change. But
they slowed down a little bit, but frequency wasn't quite as expected. But they've come back. They've roared back this week. And what did they do?
So Andrea wrote in, who tried to apply for the Citi Premier card and said this: strange thing happened when I applied. I was denied because I had too many inquiries. When they looked at my credit, sorry, I'm having a little reading trouble right now. They had too many inquiries when they looked at my credit via Experian. I had just put in an application with Chase about 10 minutes prior. No other inquiries for over 2 years.
What?
This was a hard stop for Citi, and they would not reconsider, even given my 20-year relationship with them. Seems harsh. I agree. That seems harsh.
It does. That does seem very harsh. That seems very, very, very harsh and weird. And Citi's been odd on stuff lately. On the flip side, I would say the same thing I frequently say, and that is whatever reason they're giving you is probably not the real reason. It's just the reason that the computer spit out. Somebody's going to read it to you, or the computer's going to say it. But clearly in this case, it isn't that you had too many inquiries. And in fact, to me, that proves what I've been trying to scream from the rooftops for a while, that whole too many inquiries thing is just a bunch of baloney. It's just a reason that they give you to make you go away.
I think they're required to give a reason. And so they have this, they have this like magic 8-ball that has like 3 reasons in it. So it's not quite and they shake it and it says too many inquiries. And that's the reason. So.
Right. Exactly. Because clearly that's not it here. They just, whatever the other reason, maybe there were too many accounts overall, or too much this, or too much that, or too many balances.
Too much credit.
Whatever. Maybe the region you live in, and who knows? Yeah. But whatever it is, there was some reason they didn't want to extend that, and they just don't come out and tell you the truth.
Right. But Citi could use a better magic 8-ball when it comes to this particular one.
They really could. Upgrade, Citi. It's time to upgrade. All right. Mattress running the numbers this week. So this week we're reaching the end of the year. There's not that many days left. By the time this publishes, there'll be 6 days or so left in the year.
Not much at all.
And so that's cutting it tight for elite status, isn't it?
It sure is. And so we decided just to sort of remind people of something that might not be obvious. And this is for those who are seeking Marriott elite status. And if you're getting close to that 75 night level, which is not that crazy if you had status last year, the year before, then they gave you sort of half the nights required for that status again this year. And then if you have both a business and a personal credit card, that gives you another 30 nights. So that combination could put a lot of people actually pretty darn close. to
yeah.
75 already, just to
check how
begin
many
with,
nights I'm
depending
at.
on what you had before. So
Yeah.
anyway, the point is to remind you that one of the choice benefits you could get at 50 nights is 5 elite nights. And so if you are 5 elite nights or less away from 75 night elite status with Marriott, I think the best choice is to grab that 5 elite night choice, get to the 75 night. It's easy. It doesn't cost you anything, except you don't get the sweet night awards that you'd get at 50 nights, but you could pick them at 75 nights instead. So you really haven't lost anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great reminder that is one of the options for the 50 night choice benefit. And really the only 2 options that are worth anything for the 50 night choice benefit, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but are either the 5 elite nights or the 5 sweet night awards. And it's a stretch to call those worth something, because very difficult comparatively compared to Hyatt anyway to use those. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky and be able to use them, but they're kind of restricted.
There are so many properties that don't accept them. I mean, there are property types that you can't use them at all, like Ritz or whatever. But then there's lots of individual properties that just say we don't take them, and Marriott doesn't do.
That's really, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So they just don't take them, right? So there's that issue. Then there's the issue that they only clear 5 days in advance of your stay. Right. Then there's the issue that you need one for every night of your stay. So if you're on a 6-night stay and you only have 5 sweet night awards,
can't use them at all.
5.
Yeah.
Can't use them at all. Yeah, can't even use one. So yeah, so they're kind of annoying. Great when it works out, but it may not be very often. So might as well take those 5 elite nights if you're close to the 75 night status.
Exactly. And I'm just going to
take
I'm going to throw out one other thing. A lot of people have reached out to me about Delta, saying they're short on the qualifying dollars, the MQDs, and what tricks do I know? I don't.
Spend some money with
if
Delta.
you haven't spent enough on the credit card to get a waiver for the MQD, I literally, other than spending on Delta at this point, I mean, there's tricks around booking partner flights, but this is too late in the year to try to do something like that.
Probably, unless you're really lucky and also really adventurous in terms of booking an international trip at the very moment that we're going through now. So. Right. So, probably not any big tricks there. All right. So make your last little runs here, do what you got to do, get status locked up. Then I think that brings us to
the main event. Yes. Our all-time favorite awards. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our favorite flight awards, our favorite lodging awards, and then our favorite other stuff awards. What else have we redeemed points for? And what rose to the top as our favorites. So let's talk about flights first. I'm going to let you go first. What was your all-time favorite flight award?
So, in a post that I wrote about my favorite awards, I wrote about some of the luxury flights that I've taken. I've been lucky to take lots of different luxury flights on great airlines, and they've been fantastic. And you can read about a couple of them in the post that I wrote. But my favorite flight award, when I really got thinking about it, this came up in my mind after I had written the post, and I was like, I don't know how I didn't include that. So my favorite flight award wasn't even in the post. What I think I'd have to pick as my favorite came from our 40K to far away challenge. My favorite flight award, and now this isn't necessarily my favorite flight ever, but my favorite flight award was the crazy award that I put together through LifeMiles to fly from Brisbane to Christchurch, New Zealand, from Christchurch, New Zealand to Nelson, New Zealand, where I took a bicycle ride for like 25 miles to nowhere. And then from Nelson, New Zealand to Auckland. So I had overnighted in Christchurch, I should say. I started in Brisbane, overnighted in Christchurch, had a full 8-hour daytime layover in Nelson when I did my 25-mile bike ride. Then flew to Auckland, overnighted in Auckland, all on one single economy class award ticket. And then the next morning from Auckland, flew to Niue, tiny little island in the Pacific Ocean, 2 flights in a week, 2 flights out a week. So once you get there, you're stuck for a few days because there's no flights in or out. So you're not going anywhere for a bit. And so Niue was a really interesting place just because it's so far away and isolated and not particularly easy to get to. And so that entire award cost me I can't remember if it was 15,000 or 20,000 LifeMiles, and I had used a transfer bonus or something. So I can't remember which of those, and $113. And I got stops in all those cities, and I was able to put it together. Even though I couldn't get it to price out on the LifeMiles website, I had found a post from Dominic at Traveling the World. I'm going to butcher is the name of this blog. Now I can't remember the name of this blog exactly, but so I'll have to link it in the show notes to the post that I had read about how to do a manual booking with LifeMiles. So with LifeMiles, you can find the individual segments. And if you find the individual segments available on the LifeMiles site, you can email support@lifemiles.com and ask them to put together a manual booking, and you will wait and wait and wait. So if it's like tight availability, forget about it. Not going to happen. Yeah. And then one day somebody's going to call you in the middle of the day, like no warning, out of nowhere, and be like, you've got 10 minutes to call me back and ticket this thing. Kind of, it's like, it was really ridiculous. Right, it was a really short deadline to call back. And but I did that, and magically it happened, and it ticketed, and I couldn't believe it that I had these like 4 flights for whatever it was, 20,000 points, where I was going to get layovers in several different cities in New Zealand and get to this tiny little Pacific island nation. So that was probably the coolest award that I've booked.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. It almost makes me want to like change what I'm planning to say to the crazy United excursionist stuff I did during 40K to Far Away. Not nearly as I like cool as what you did, but still fun and interesting. But no, I'm going to keep though. My answer is about the flight, not less about the award. I don't remember how much I paid for the award necessarily. It wasn't too much, but my first experience flying Singapore Suites. So this was back in 2013. I had been blogging for I'd been blogging for about a year and a half at that point, I think, and had been reading all about all the great international first class flights that you could take, but I hadn't gone on any. I'd been on a couple business class flights, maybe 3 or so, I don't know. And that was great, but I hadn't done that like super luxury where you have caviar and they make up your bed with sheets and pillows and everything. And they, top shelf champagne, all that kind of stuff. And so I booked a round the world trip on points, all in first class. So I flew Lufthansa first class, then I flew Thai first class, and it all culminated or ended with flying back to the United States on Singapore Suites, and it's so memorable to me because the earlier flights, while they were great, I still thought of them as being sort of incrementally better than business class. Like, I'd be like, well, this is, maybe 20% better, maybe 30% better. I don't know. It wasn't like a whole different world until I got into until I got into Singapore Suites, and it's like, whoa, this is a whole different world. Yeah. Partially it was the product was this idea of having this whole sort of enclosed room almost. And I mean, it had windows to the aisle, so windows on both sides.
And that seat is like wide enough for 5 people.
Right,
it's like, there's tons of space,
huge leather
ridiculous,
seat, huge, TV screen and enormous, when they pull out the table for serving it, it's an enormous table in front of you and everything. But that was only a small part of what really wowed me. The other part was just the service was just incredible. I mean, I had never experienced anything close to this, where the flight attendants and everybody involved, like a lot of different people introduced themselves to you in Singapore Suites, and it was a little bewildering, but they all seemed to know what I preferred. So if I said something to one person, like, everyone knew what my preferences were. They knew things that I wanted before I knew I wanted them. And it was just kind of magical, and part of it, I think, was because it was the first time I did something that luxurious, so
Right.
I would say, many years later when I did Etihad First Apartments, that was probably objectively a nicer experience in many ways. Like, service was also outstanding, and it's a even nicer type of suite that you get there. But there's nothing as spectacular as the first time you experience something along those levels. And so that's why I picked that. And I am also picking it because I think it's going to be my next favorite award as well.
Yeah, so you've got something exciting like lined up here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you
so we had written a few weeks ago about how there was amazing Singapore Suites award space from JFK to Frankfurt, and
which is rare. Which
is very rare.
Finding on that route, it's really difficult.
Right, right. And for the longest time, they've flown a older style Singapore Suite, which is the same kind I flew in 2013. And I was able to find award space for both my wife and I. And so we'd be able to get like the double bed experience, which I saw in your post. You've done that when you flew with your wife on Singapore Suites. And again, the old style. And the exciting thing is that they've now announced that they're swapping out on that route. As of, I think it's like late March, they're swapping in the new style suites, which are much bigger, and
much bigger than the very like obscenely big suite that it already was.
Right.
And it's much bigger than that.
And at least the pictures of the two together made up as a double, it makes it look like you have a hotel room. It
does. It definitely, it looks totally different. I mean, the double bed in the old style suites, it kind of looks like a double bed, but there's still like a divider in the middle, and it's kind of like awkward and weird, and it's not quite what it looks like. It's not like you can really just like spread out.
And there's also no room like in your suite to like walk around and
do anything else. Yeah,
it's
exactly. You just
got really rough.
The bed that takes up all the space. Yeah, I know it's tough. Isn't it? It's hard. It's a hard life. But and the thing with the old Singapore Suites, which is one of the most luxurious ways I've ever flown also. But the thing with the old Singapore Suites is that the bed or the seat, you can't convert it into a bed yourself. The flight attendant has to do it. And it's either like all bed or seat. It's not like you can pick varying levels of recline like you can on some other seats, but that's not a problem in the new suite, right? Because you have a seat and a bed.
Right. It's two separate things,
insane.
Which is the same as what Etihad Apartments has or had, now that they're not flying the A380s right now. And so that's going to be, I think is going to be amazing. Hopefully we'll actually be able to take that flight as planned, and I'm looking forward to that. Do you have that booked as well? I know you're looking.
No, I talked about it. Yeah, I thought about it a little bit, but no, it was more points than I thought it was worth without knowing that it was the new suites. If I had known that it was the new suites at the time, I probably would have had a hard time not doing it. But it was also an issue of I found 3 seats on some days, but they weren't the dates that I really needed to travel to Europe. So it was like, do I just book another speculative trip to Europe? I already kind of have 2 speculative trips to Europe in the books, and I on the books here, and I have no idea whether these things are going to happen. My confidence level is definitely dropping at the moment as to whether or not those are going to happen. So
definitely,
we'll see.
We'll see. One thing I'll just mention about that old style Singapore Suites was they, I had my little suite, and when it was time to make it up as a bed, they asked me if it'd be okay if they made up the suite that was across the hall from me as my bedroom. So,
I think that's probably, that'll do.
Yeah, I was like, that'll be okay. So now I had a bedroom and a living room, and that was amazing. And it was so comfortable. They have these like memory foam, mattresses and pillows that was just crazy comfortable. So So yeah, that was
the things that I didn't even know existed on an airplane before I got into this game. Like I had no idea that that was a thing. I mean, I know now everybody's seen like Crazy Rich Asians, the movie there, and they have like something that sort of looks like Singapore almost, the plane in that movie that so people have seen that idea, but I had never seen that idea. I don't think before I got into Miles and Points. I had no idea that was
no, me neither. And this is definitely the type of flight that I think is it's worth like a bucket list. Like it's worth going out of your way for.
Agreed.
And so so I'm excited about. All awesome. Right. Should we talk about lodging now?
We should. Yeah. So lodging for me, I had a hard time deciding, and this is one that I'm going to take actually from the post, and I had a hard time deciding between two, because for me there was a big part of me that wanted to pick the Comfort Hotel Boulevard that I wrote about that was in Rome, because not necessarily because the hotel was luxurious, but it was the first time I remember staying in a place that was like super centrally located, because before that I was too much of a cheapskate. I would be out on the outskirts of town somewhere, taking the subway in kind of a thing, not staying in the heart of everything. So that was, to me, that was a fun redemption for that. But I think if I have to pick my favorite, I think so far it's got to be the St. Regis Bora Bora, and that's for a number of reasons. But this game has given me the feeling more than once where I've just been awed. You were kind of talking about that with Singapore Suites a minute ago, where you just kind of feel like, wow, this is my life. Like I didn't anticipate this. I didn't know this was going to be a thing. If you asked, the me 10 or 15 years ago, if I was going to be flying into Bora Bora and just looking at this gorgeous mountain and the crystal blue water. I mean, it was just something out of a movie where I felt like, wow.
And your pictures of there
are
where unbelievable.
I belonged.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
pictures.
It is beautiful. It's so pretty. And they have a great lagoon there where you can go snorkeling, and it's really easy. So if you're not a great swimmer, it's an enclosed lagoon, but it's huge. So it doesn't feel like you're, swimming in an aquarium necessarily, apart from the fact that there are a lot of fish around. So it's great ocean life viewing, so to speak, there. The views of the mountain, like I said, are just absolutely phenomenal. The sunsets are just something that, oh man, I'll never get that out of my head. The sunsets there were just gorgeous. And it was the type of place, that as people who are familiar with the game know is way out of my league in terms of the price that I would pay. $1,000, $1,500 a night, is like where that place starts most of the year. So, or all of the year, I think, really. So, and it can get quite a bit more expensive. So, and it was a place that I didn't think I would probably ever stay at, because before the merger with Marriott, it was not priced like a regular property. When it was a Starwood property, many of I shouldn't say many, a handful of Starwood properties like the St. Regis Maldives and the St. Regis Bora Bora were considered all suites properties. And so they cost a ridiculous number of points beyond the award chart, the old Starwood award chart. So there were so many points that I never considered going there, even though I knew I could use points, until the merger with Marriott. And even then, many people would not have assumed that it was going to be a regular award booking, but we had the good fortune to attend the Marriott event when they had the merger, and to spend a good long while talking with the gentleman who was the vice president of the loyalty program at the time, and confirming with him multiple times that yes, all of the properties would have standard rooms, and they were all going to price at an incredible rate when the merger happened. So it cost me 48,000 Marriott points per night to stay in this incredible picturesque place. So that's a favorite for all of those reasons together. And it's something that reminds me that when there are those deals, you got to jump on them, right? I mean, now it'll cost you what? Like 100,000 points per night most of the time. And then when they do away with the award chart in March, goodness knows it's going to be a ridiculous number of points all the time. So the chance to have stayed for 48,000 points per night was something that I'll never regret having jumped on that.
Right. Now, to be clear, that was when you say 48, that's based on getting the fifth night free, correct?
Fifth night free. Yeah, correct. It was 60,000 points per night. Fifth night free, dropped it to an average of 48.
Yeah. I'm so sad. I had a few of those types of things booked back then, and just, my travel plans never lined up right to actually make them happen. So unfortunately, I never got to take advantage of them, but I'm so glad you did. That was awesome.
It was great. It was great. And they treated my son really, really well. That was awesome too, traveling there with a kid. My wife and I have talked about going back before Marriott gets rid of the award chart, or at least booking a stay before Marriott gets rid of the award chart while our kids are young, because they ate for free. So that was also awesome.
Yeah.
And I ran into a couple of readers there that recognized me from the blog. So that was also a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So I had a hard time picking my favorite, not because it's actually completely obvious to me what my favorite is. And it was number one on my post about this, which is Necker Island. But I don't really want to talk about that because you can't book that anymore with points, and it's just such a stretch. And I've talked about it a lot before. So then I was like, well, my next favorite is probably the Le Meridian Maldives, but we've talked about that so much on the show. I don't want to talk about that. So
what do you got that's new for me, Greg?
So I'm going to talk about Alila Ventana, Big Sur. I know I've talked about that too on the show, but let's just talk about it a little bit more. It's been a while since I've talked about it much, I guess, other than to say I love it. So my wife and I booked a stay at Ventana Big Sur, which is a Hyatt property. We stayed there right before the lockdowns in early 2020, right? So the Big Sur, I don't know if you've been to Big Sur, but
I have not.
It's such a beautiful area. So you drive along the coast and you just have these glorious redwood trees to one side and the crashing ocean on the other, like down below on a cliff. And there's amazing hiking all around, which is one of the things that my wife and I love to do the most is hiking. And so geographically, you just can't beat the location of this, with maybe one exception, that it is on the it's on the non-ocean side of the road. So there's a well-known resort that's crazy expensive that you can't book with points, that's on the ocean side of the road, which I'm sure is like fantastic, ocean views all the time. But the non-ocean views at Ventana are incredible as they are, and then you do have ocean views from some locations around Ventana Big Sur. When I stayed there, I did not have top tier Hyatt status at the time, but one of the things we've talked about before that we love about Hyatt is that they have this thing called guest of honor. And so a top tier elite member can book the stay for you, and you get all the benefits as if you have that top tier elite status. So you get upgraded, you get free breakfast, you get free parking, you get, all that kind of stuff. And Hyatt also lets you move points from one person to another for free. So I just tapped a friend who had globalist status at the time and said, I'll send you whatever it was, 150,000 points or something like that. And can you book this for me? And so we did it that way. We booked a regular room. We show up. They acknowledge the globalist status on the reservation. They upgrade us to a premium suite, not just a regular suite, but a premium suite. And everything, the staff were fantastic. The whole atmosphere is like, it's not, you can't compare it to a hotel, or certainly don't compare it to like a resort, because it's more like having these luxury cabins like in the woods in a way. There's no feeling of like, there's not hundreds and hundreds of people all milling about trying, lining up for food or whatever, like you have at many resorts. There's not that many rooms there. So that brings you to one of the negatives of the place, which is that it can be hard to book an award stay there because there's just not that many rooms. But if you do book it, and you are able to book it, if you enjoy nature as much as my wife and I do, it was just spectacular. And after we were there, they converted it to all inclusive for food. So you even get all your meals. So we just got free breakfast, and that was nice. And excuse me. We are planning, hoping we have a booking to go back and this coming winter. So hopefully that will happen, barring, any unforeseen variants.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for the best there. Knock on wood, because that's exciting. That'll be fun. I'm sure that'll be great to get back.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. So yeah. So there you go. There's my
Nice.
There's my lodging pick.
Awesome. That's a great pick. It's definitely one that I look at and I say, wow, it'd be great to stay there. I think it's adults only, right? So
it is. Yeah.
You can't. So I'm shut out. I'm stuck on that one for a while.
They love dogs though. So if you could dress up your kids as dogs, they'll get lots of attention. And
Halloween will be great. We'll be good to go. Very good. So Steven can bring truffles and
yes.
and he can let me know how it was. Very good. Okay, so now we're on to the other portion.
What do you got? What other thing do you got?
I'm curious what your other thing is going to be, because my other thing is still going to be award, and it's going to be something I wrote about in the post, but I want to give more backstory than I was able to do. So in the post, I said a cheater answer for my favorite redemption ever was my honeymoon, because I took a very long honeymoon. We took a 4-month honeymoon around the world, went to, I think, 18 different countries, flew mostly in business and first class. And it was absolutely amazing. I mean, the stuff of like storybook dream type things was something that was, again, one of those things that I never would have thought possible before discovering this. And that's where I wanted to actually talk about it a little bit, because I only had so much space in the post to give backstory. And I think the backstory for it, part of it was more fun. So I was not a person that was into credit cards. I grew up with parents who said, you never pay an annual fee to use your own money, and you only need one credit card. And so that's what I had for a lot of years. And so my wife and I had one single Capital One card. We used the points for a trip once, and we were like, woohoo, we got a free trip. And so that was kind of our thing for a long time. Right. And then I decided, my wife and I finally decided we were going to settle down and get married. And so for years, my wife and I had traveled on a shoestring budget, because we both liked to travel. We didn't have very much money. So we'd work really hard, like 60, 70, 80 hours a week, go take a trip that was really cheap, stay in a really cheap place, but go see someplace awesome, and then come back and work another 60 or 70 or 80 hours a week for a few months, and then, go take another trip, et cetera, et cetera. So when we decided we were going to get married, we said, well, we're going to probably have kids and settle down, and we're not going to be able to do this anymore. So let's have one big last hurrah, and, let's try to hit everything we can, but how are we going to do it? And so I started looking into cash round the world tickets. That's where this all started from, because I was like, oh, I've heard about these round the world tickets. Will that be cheaper? Can we maybe see a lot of places without spending very much money? And that led me to reading about awards, and led me to things like the Points Guy and Million Mile Secrets, where I kind of got started with it. And then from there, I fell into other blogs at Boarding Area, particularly Frequent Miler. And so I had started to learn a bunch, and I thought that I knew quite a bit. And so I spent about a year reading, and then about a year collecting. And I was part of the way into that year of collecting. And I happened to run the Chicago Marathon, and the marathon happened to be the same weekend as the Chicago seminars. And I have friends in Chicago. So I went out primarily to visit our friends, and my friend and I ran the marathon. And so my friend Nate had a friend named Lance. And Lance, who I hadn't met before, was into miles and points. And Lance's father was really into miles and points. So Lance's dad had been at the Chicago seminars. And that weekend, after the marathon was done, we had a dinner together. Lance's dad was there, and he and I started talking. And his dad was like, oh, well, what about this? Do you know about that? And he was talking about things I'd never heard before. And I got really interested. And so he pulled out an iPad, and he started showing me pictures from the presentations at the Chicago seminars. And I was like, oh, what you can do this and that, and like there's this sweet spot and that sweet spot. I had no idea at all. I had only been looking at like American and United and like very basic, simple award stuff. And he started showing me things that absolutely blew my mind. And so I was amazed, and Lance already knew quite a bit about it. So he said, if you're interested in this stuff, there's another conference coming up. You got to check it out. It's called Frequent Traveler University. And he sent me the information. And I was like, the stuff that his dad told me was kind of blowing my mind. I told my wife, and she's like, well, maybe we ought to give this a shot. And so we went to Frequent Traveler University that year. It was just another month or two later. Mm-hmm. And I sat down in a presentation that was about stacking. It was about stacking shopping portals and deals. And I thought that I knew everything I needed to know about how to stack a deal. I was like, all right, I'm going to listen to this guy talk about stacking deals. And I'm not really going to learn anything useful, probably, but there wasn't anything
because you were already doing
I wanted to listen to. I was already doing that. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right? I already had that wrapped up. But the other presentations didn't sound interesting. So I was like, you know what? I kind of like this guy. I enjoy his blog. I'm going to listen to him talk about stacking some deals. And wouldn't you know it, it was Greg, the frequent miler. And so Greg blew my mind. He was talking about double dipping and triple dipping. I knew about a shopping portal, but I had no idea about a double dip or a triple dip, which in many cases, those things aren't available anymore, but just totally like blew the roof off of things. So we went from, okay, we're going to collect a bunch of miles for a year and fly in economy class and stay in the cheap places on the outskirts of town to, from that moment, it was about, I don't know, maybe 10 more months before we got married. And by the time we got married, we had the thing booked and we were flying almost entirely in business and first class, thanks to what I learned from you,
Wow.
Greg. So thank you very much for that. And then, of course, obviously that all landed me here. So my honeymoon was really the ultimate redemption, not just for the trip itself, but for what came
your
with
whole
it.
life going forward.
My whole life.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. All right. Well,
So
you know, that's kind of, as you said, kind of cheating in a way. It's not
really
what we were asking for here, but you got a good story in. So that's really what counts. Okay. I was hoping that you had done something like, Dan's Deals had redeemed 1 million SPG points to throw out the first pitch in the playoffs, right?
And I've always wanted to do
the World Series.
Not that, but no, it's the World Series.
It's World Series.
Cubs won the series. Yeah, he threw out the first pitch. I mean, that was pretty amazing.
That was amazing.
And they used to do these like softball tournaments at Wrigley Field, and it was like a ridiculously low number of points. You had to pay like, I don't know, 8,000 or 12,000 star points or something in order to get on one of the teams and play for a few innings on Wrigley. I mean, come on, I totally should have done that back in the day. But no, I've never really done anything else like that with my points, I don't think. So that's why I'm really curious as to what your other thing is going to be.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you about the time I redeemed 100,000 Starwood points for a toaster. And no.
Thank you for not telling us that story. It's one you should keep to yourself, Greg. No, Greg didn't really.
No, I did not really do that. Okay. Those things are almost always, I hate to even use the word almost there. They're always really, really bad values for your points. So don't do it.
Yeah. Those toasters are totally not worth it. They're not that
any kind of merchandise. It's just not a good deal. No, the non-flight, non-lodging thing I did is I used points for my wife's 50th birthday trip. We booked Amtrak overnight train to Utah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
I'm
this was
way
back in the day. Chase Ultimate Awards used to transfer to Amtrak. And also way back in the day, Amtrak used to have an award chart. So they would have like these different regions and a certain amount of points required to go to each region and so on. And I actually did not really optimize that because the optimal thing would have been to go Chicago to Denver and get off there because that was all within one region at the time. But we went on to Utah because we would have missed the best part of it, which is the going up through the mountain and looking down at the river and everything was an amazing part of the trip. We enjoyed that. We enjoyed the train travel a lot. At the time, I've heard that they've cut back on service since then, but at the time they had a nice dining car available just for the people who were staying in rooms, in bedrooms. And so you would have nice meals on the train, and they had a dedicated viewing car. So you have like a very pretty area to watch from while they had rangers actually come on and talk about what you're seeing. And if that got too crowded,
awesome.
yeah, you could go back to your room and look out from there because there was great views from there. So, that all was a great experience. Now, having said that, like, I think it was perfect. Chicago to where we got off in Utah was about the right amount of time. Like we got on, I think it was like one evening maybe, and then kind of slept through going through like cornfields where there wasn't much to look at anyway. Got up early in the morning, like in Denver, and then we're fully awake, and pretty much it was like all day ride, like through the mountains to get to Utah, and it was right after dinner that we stopped, so we got to enjoy the meal car multiple times. And I think spending like another day, another full day would have been tough because it's just very confined quarters, but I really, really enjoyed doing about 24 hours on the train. That was great.
I always wanted to do it. So did you transfer points from Ultimate Rewards? Is that what you said you did?
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
Which was, that was one of the regrets that I have. That it was something that I knew about, and we said, oh, we're going to do that one of these days. We're going to do that one of these days. And then that day just didn't come. Right. And I regret that we didn't make that happen because that award chart was just fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, and you could play back then, you could play games with it, like, because you could do things like in one zone, it was something like all the way from like Southern California, all the way to like, I don't know, somewhere in like the northern Midwest kind of area. And so you could go all the way up the coast and then across. And I know a lot of people who did that. Yeah, I never optimized it that way, but I was glad I did something with the train when I did.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think that anybody who hasn't had much experience with Amtrak, I'm in that crowd, but I have had a little bit. I think that whole experience of like the sightseeing car with the ranger that explains stuff is really, really cool. I took I can't remember which train it's called now, but there's a train that goes from Los Angeles up the coast through like Santa Barbara.
Is that the Coastal Starlight?
San Luis Obispo. Yes, it's something like that. Is it called Coastal Starlight? Starlight definitely sounds right. It's something like that. Yes. And so it's got that kind of thing, that car that is like all glass, and some ranger who seemed like he was 1,000 years old that was like relating the history of the place. And it was so interesting just listening to him talk for a little bit. And just again, kind of a neat thing that it seems out of the norm for me, I guess, because I don't live somewhere where train travel is particularly common. I live in the middle of nowhere. So,
right.
And I like that. There's something about that old style.
I mean, it is. It's like having, getting to relive part of like the 1940s or 50s or something. I don't know when it was, right. The cars certainly, at least the cars we rode in, looked like they were last remodeled in the 1940s.
1940s or 50s, as did the Ranger probably.
There was literally between our room and the next one, there was literally duct tape like holding things together. so
I don't know if they had that in the 40s, Greg.
So, no, but that's how they've maintained it since then.
Right. Which does vary, I think, on the trains. Just it also is very much like that in many places, but it's kind of fun. It's there's something I like about that sort of grittiness and, like you said, that old style.
And the cool thing is, even though you can't transfer from Chase Ultimate Rewards, you can sign up for the Amtrak card when it's having a nice offer and get a lot of points. And the points, and even though they don't have that award chart anymore, the points are worth a lot towards these towards a train travel. They're worth almost 3 cents each. So I'm not convinced, like, when again I said how I didn't optimize it. It cost me like 40,000 points a person, if I'm remembering right. And that would get you, like, it might cost less today depending on how much the straight up price of it would be. So
Right. That's a great point. And Amtrak has a shopping portal too. I use it sometimes every now and then when I'm looking, and it just seems like it'd be more beneficial. I do it, and I don't have very many Amtrak points right now, but I build them up slowly, and then I've used them once or twice here and there, and you get good value.
I just used that portal just the other day for a $1 purchase.
To keep your points alive.
Yeah, exactly. The points are a few months away from expiring.
There you go. I used the Spirit portal earlier this week because I realized I was at like 2,900 and change Spirit points. And I was like, what are the chances that I'm going to find a flight that's exactly 3,000 points? Probably better than the chances I'm going to find one that's 2,900 points. So I was like, all right, it's like $2 per dollar through everybody. You know what? I'm going to go through Spirit on this $50 purchase and get myself to 3,000.
Never would have occurred to me to do that.
I'm not sure. Just one of those things where I was like, it seems like I would, if I were pricing awards, I would price them in even increments. And, of course, I look at Spirit so often to book awards that I'm not positive whether that's the case or not. But we'll see. So I gave it a shot anyway. So that's fun. I mean, that's a great one. I wish I had one quite like that, but nonetheless, maybe one of these days I will. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to redeem for.
Maybe you'll throw out the first pitch. That'll be a great story.
Very good. All right. Well, that I guess brings us then to the post roast. Do you have a post roast?
Post roast ready?
I don't either. So we're going to go right into the question of the week. And this week's question of the week is time for speculation.
Okay. Which, speculation of the week.
We all know our speculation of the week. Our predictions are not always spot on, but I'm going to ask Greg to make a prediction. So it's going to start here with the point debit card. So if you're familiar with the point debit card, it's been really awesome this last year. Lots of promos. It's been like, like right now they got a streak going. You already had to have started it, or actually by the time this publishes, I guess it'll have just ended, where you spend $200 over 7 days, you get $30 back in points. And they've had 10 points per dollar at Costco and Amazon and a bunch of other Best Buy, other retailers, which is like 10% back, 5% more regularly, but 10% lately, 2% back everywhere through the end of the year as a debit card. So, I mean, they've constantly run some pretty intriguing offers with the point card this year. And just recently, I actually had an email exchange with them because they had a promo where if you referred 5 people, you would get a Rimowa bag, a Rimowa, a suitcase or whatever. And 5 people signed up. Thank you to whoever they were through my link. And so I had triggered that promotion, which that promotion might have been my other redemption, I guess, because what they did there was they reimbursed you in points for up to $1,000 for a bag. So you get up to 100,000 points. So there's my other redemption. I got a suitcase that I never, ever would have bought.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least it'll be kind of fun.
Very
so
nice.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah. It's kind of fun. So I was excited when it came and opened it up, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I'm here to talk about right now. Right. So that is all to say that they have been making this push. And I think the Rimowa thing in particular, it seemed to me like they were trying to make this push to seem like stylish and fashionable and like something of that sort, like the status symbol, right? Because I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? They were trying to encourage people to get into it with the status symbol. And sure enough, we found out this week that they are planning to come out with the Point Titan card in the spring of 2022. So this Titan card, if I understand their promotional materials correctly, is going to be $399 a year, and it's going to be a charge card. So it's going to be like a credit card, but a charge card, no hard pull to open it. So it's going to be something that, you won't have to get a hard pull. They say it won't affect your credit opening it, though, of course, the new account, I assume, will get reported, and your limit will depend on like your income and stuff. And so what I read in their details where you're going to either need to have $100,000 in income per year or at least $10,000 in liquid assets that you can show in order to get approved for it. And it can be different flexible spending limits, blah, blah, blah. And there's some, benefits like, I don't know, there's stuff like priority pass and things like that, but that probably aren't worth $399. But the semi-interesting thing to me is that you will be able to configure your own rewards monthly, kind of like the Bank of America custom cash rewards, where you're going to get to pick 2 5X options and 2 3X options, so you can switch up. Now, the 5X options, to be honest with you, aren't particularly interesting. Probably most people are going to pick something like food delivery and, I don't know, ride share, fitness or something. It's not really going to be that exciting. The 3X categories is where I'm kind of curious, because they've got travel, dining, groceries, entertainment, and fashion. What I want to know, Greg, is what is going to code as 3X for fashion?
Yeah. Yeah, like Simon Mall, perhaps.
I mean, I like to go to the mall, Craig. I'm not a real fashionable guy, but I like to go to the mall. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I had the same thought when I saw that, because I don't get that card otherwise. Like, why would anyone want
nobody
that?
does.
I mean, $395, and it doesn't even come close to comparing to other like higher end cards. And
not at all.
Get the Venture X if you want to spend that much.
Although I'm curious, yes, I mean, totally agree. I'm curious what the airline transfers are going to be, because they do say they're going to have airline transfers. And actually, where I lost my train of thought earlier was that when I got the remote bag, I was emailing back and forth with their support, and I asked them specifically, because I had somebody who kept responding to me, the same person each day for several days, and so I was like, all right, well, I've got an in with somebody here to talk. Let me ask him, do you have any plans to offer transfers to airline programs? And he said that's definitely something we're looking at. We've got new stuff on the horizon, basically. And I not so many words, not exactly that way, but basically sounded like he confirmed that yes, airline transfers may come in the future, but without like totally confirming it. And I only took that like at a 40% chance of being true, because I mean, you never really know that a customer service person is telling you the truth. Right. But if you scroll the information on the new point card, they do say you're going to be able to transfer points to airline miles, get instant cash back, and even ride the crypto wave, whatever that means. And so for transfers, it says SkyTeam, Oneworld, Star Alliance, JetBlue, Lufthansa, and 20 others. So I found Lufthansa miles and more. I mean,
they pulled out of all the transfers, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And I thought it had something to do with German laws.
That's
so I was
really
like,
odd.
I was very interested in finding out more.
Yes.
Sign up for the wait list, because I'm interested.
It makes me think they don't know what they're talking about. Whoever wrote that,
maybe
but,
not. Maybe not.
Maybe they've got something interesting going on.
Maybe they
we'll
do.
See. We'll see.
Maybe they do, and maybe I'll have to get extra fashionable. We'll see.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, even if they do transfer to Lufthansa, while there are some sweet spots in their word chart, what I remember is you're still going to get those giant fuel surcharges if you try to book flying Lufthansa itself. So
that's true.
I'm not sure I'd be all that excited anyway.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there are some other sweet spots I have written once in a while, because they had like a 75K offer on the card at some point. So I wrote a post with some of the sweet spots anyway. So I'll be curious to see where that goes, because face value $399 for this, I mean, it seems like crazy and ridiculous, but I'll be curious.
Yes. Well, also, I mean, if they regularly do big spend promotions like they've been doing with the debit card, then maybe it would have value after all. But it's a little weird asking people to invest like that much money up front for the chance of getting those kind of offers.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't do it hoping that that's going to happen, if not for the fact that I do write about it. So maybe I will, because of my unique situation, and because they have run such awesome promos on the card. I mean, they had 15X at Nike a few times, and they advertised with the new card that they're going to have 15X Ramoa and 15X, I don't know, ASOP or a few different things that they're going to have 15X at supposedly. We'll see. I'll be curious to watch for that in the spring.
Cool.
So,
all right.
I was curious what you thought.
That'll be a fun future episode then, when we either say why it's good or rip it to shreds.
One or the other. All right, my friends, that brings us to the end for this week. If you enjoyed today's episode and you would like to get more of our posts right in your inbox, all you got to do is go to frequentmiler.com/subscribe. Again, that's frequentmiler.com/subscribe. Join our email list. You can follow us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. Join our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group so you can discuss this stuff with other folks and be in the know of all the hot new deals as they happen. Thank you very much for being out there with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, enable notifications, leave a comment. That all helps the channel out. We'll see you guys again soon.
Bye, everybody.